Hello and welcome to Eat the Blank Page. My name is Victor Rowe, and I hope everyone is having a manageable week. If you haven't heard the news, well, you know what, before I even get there, hi, my name is Victor. If this is your first time listening or seeing the podcast on YouTube, where this is also posted, I'm an author, I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, playwright, and I have a book coming out called Doppler House. It's a doppelganger love story that is a horror romance, thriller romance. If you go into the description, you'll see a link to something called Victor Rowe Stories, which is my personal account that I publish all of my work on. And if you want to see more, you can go there. But I'm just letting you know, it's super good. I'm really proud of it. I've been working on it for about a year and a half, and it's coming out end of April. So, but I am an author. I love stories, storyteller. I love analyzing stories, talking about stories, thus the podcast. And thus why you're here. Maybe someone sent this to you, maybe you're sending this to someone who you think would enjoy. But if you like deep talks about random bits of entertainment, about niche storytelling tactics, or just rants from a mega fan, then this is your place, and hopefully I can make your day just a little bit better. But starting up, the RT shutdown. Rooster Teeth shut down, it's gone because of Warner Brothers. Because of a lot of things that a lot of people have talked about, which is not what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about why they shut down. I want to talk about the impact it's leaving and the impact they've had on people like me. Because I'm not just someone that's on YouTube. I'm just like you. Probably a fan of Rooster Teeth. I found Rooster Teeth from Red vs. Blue, just like everyone else. And when I was that young, I found Red vs. Blue. When I found out that there was a RT podcast, I lost my mind. I was like, I can just listen to these guys talk? Okay, fine. Because I was also a fan of the Immersion series. I was a fan of Achievement Hunter. And so finding them just being able to talk was my favorite. I just love listening to stories. I love listening to people converse, discuss things. And I was able to play Minecraft and listen to them just in the background. When it came to Achievement Hunter, that's how I played video games when I was younger. It was just watching them play. I think that's the story for a lot of people, and that a lot of people can relate. But in recent years, it's been Tales from the Stinky Dragon. It's been Face. It's been all of these different shows that have turned into podcasts, that have evolved, have ended. But I want to mention Ruby, RWBY, my first actual anime. Now that word actual or actually is a little debated, not to me. It's what got me in the front door of the world of anime that I now love, into countless stories that I couldn't imagine my life without. And one of my heroes that I will never actually get the chance to meet, Monty Ohm, is one of my biggest inspirations because of his work ethic, because of the quality of his work, and the legacy, the reverberance that people talk when talking about him is something that I strive for. It's something that I want to see within myself, see within the people around me. I want to be a storyteller, not for any other reason than to be a storyteller. I want to make money off storytelling so that I can tell more stories. And it's that kind of attitude that you're an artist. Everything is given to your art is something that I saw in Monty for the first time out of anyone. Out of all of my heroes across YouTube and real life, he is the first person to actually show me that giving your all into something can be rewarding and worth it. And it's something that I personally feel connected to as a set list of values. So not only did I find Monty Ohm, I found people like Bernie, Gus, Jeff, Barbara, Blaine, John, Chris, and I called them by their first name because over the years, something's happened that I'm sure everyone can relate to. I've made friends with people I've never met. People who don't know me are the same people I consider friends. I know more about Jeff and Gavin's friendship than I do most people in my family. I know the history that these people that I've only ever experienced behind a screen have with each other. The stories that they've given from their own lives. I know. I feel like I know how to talk to Andrew if I was to sit down in a room with him. I can have inside jokes with Jeff and Kevin and Eric, even though I've never met them. That's one of the biggest things that I think hurt people when an announcement like Rooster Teeth is shutting down feel and can never really pinpoint, describe that that's what the feeling is. You're losing a friend and that hurts. But for a lot of the personality behind Rooster Teeth, I don't think that they're gonna just disappear. I know on the most recent episode of Fuckface, 198, I believe, Jeff definitively said, we are staying. There is going to be a continuation past Rooster Teeth for the channel, for Bleep Base, for them, which I'm very, very happy about. But it comes to bring up the question of what's happening with Tales from the Sticky Dragon, what's happening with the RT podcast, what's happening to those people. When am I going to be able to hear from them? That I think a lot of people are dealing with right now, me included. So as kind of a shout into the void with the millions of other people, to the people I'll never meet, to the people who have never met me, and to the people who have brought me more joy in my life than most people I've actually met. To Jeff, Gavin, Gus, Krista Maris, Michael Jones, Lindsay Jones, Barbara, Blaine, John Reisinger, to everyone, Andrew, Eric, to everyone. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for making what you've made. And most of all, thank you for inspiring someone like me who is now pursuing their dreams, really. Thank you. And now for the useless shout to people who will never hear from me. We pivot into the actual episode. I went to go see Imaginary today. And I gotta say, it is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. Right behind Agent Argyle. But as a horror movie, I think it does a lot of things right. And there will be spoilers, so just keep that in mind. Imaginary does two things very, very well. It has short-term payoffs that, oh boy, feel great as a viewer. It also is a true story. If you haven't heard of what I mean by a true story, I mean this. A lot of the times, a story, a TV show, a book, a movie will feel like a lot of random events kind of just smacked onto each other with one overarching plot that they kind of get to. Example, characters are having a conversation at dinner table and then one has a seizure and nothing's been alluded to that they have medical history of seizures, that the seizure represents something. It just happens and it's now a new conflict point and it's something to deal with. Now, things like Game of Thrones use this to their advantage by giving you a character that you really like and then taking them away. There's an emotional impact. There's a purpose to the randomness, and you don't see all that much purpose in storytelling anymore. Hinting at things that will happen later in the story can be done a few different ways, but how Imaginary does this is it introduces a setting that is a lot of just a character within itself. The scribblings on the wall lead to a revelation later in the movie. A stuffed bear leads to a revelation later in the movie. There's setup and payoffs across the entire board. No better than a checklist that the haunted bear gives to the youngest child, Alice. And throughout the movie, she checks the boxes off, and you feel the sense of progression. Yes, it's creepy stuff, like something that makes you happy, something that makes you sad, something that you would get a lot of trouble in for, something that hurts. It's those kinds of things that lead to the bigger plot points. Spoiler warning, that checklist opens a portal into this dream imagination universe that the whole monster it lives in and is trying to get people to come into to absorb their creativity of children. What the fuck? But it's not about that. It's about a family dealing with this problem, dealing with the demons of their past that come up from a basement hidden in a corner that have damaged other family members that they now have to deal with, that is affecting the new child, the new stepdaughter, the new members of the household. That's what the story is about. It's about a family dealing with that. It's not about this monster that lives in another universe. That's just what the conflict is. That's just the problem that they're dealing with. I think a big theme of the movie is trauma, is dealing with trauma that can outreach its hand as a comfort zone, that forgetting that a real life exists outside of the events that happen can be true. I think that is at the core of a lot of the movie, and how that trauma, if undealt with, can reach out a hand to the children that you raise, even if they aren't your own. And how it doesn't just stop there, it can outreach itself to everyone in your life. This idea of setup and payoff is throughout the entire movie. There is no scene, there is no sense of dialogue that doesn't add to the mystery, solve a previously established problem, or characterize the people we're actually seeing. I remember turning to my girlfriend and going, hey, like, I could watch a TV show just about this family. And that small part of the horror movie, or what is usually treated as a small part, being nailed on the head so well is just refreshing, because I care about these people, and now they're dealing with situations that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. And that's something that adds to the fear, but I want to have the concept of how horror works in a narrative sense can be a whole episode of its own. So as far as imaginary goes, go see it. It's awesome. Just that part of it, the setup and payoff of small things, large things, medium things, is congruent throughout the entire movie. Daughter has a burn on her arm from her real mother who went crazy. Cool. She's afraid of fire. The last step of the ritual to get to the next world is burning it. She can't do that part. The spirit gets mad. There's a checklist that the spirit is making the child gather throughout the entire story. That's what the story does so well. It keeps you engaged by giving you setups and then payoffs, but each setup and payoff is a step towards the larger plot points that we are there to see. That's what it does so well. That's what was so good about the movie. That it wasn't just one thing that they were hitting. It wasn't just one moment they were leading to. There were established points that they were gonna get to. The relationship between the stepmother and the two daughters, the relationship between the stepmother and the house, the past events that the stepmother went through. The stepmother's the main character, by the way. The stepmother's relationship to the father's connection to the events of the house, the neighbor's connection to the events of the house. All of these things led to the point of the movie. The climax of the movie, the final few scenes of the movie, is what the entire movie led to. And that might sound obvious, but it's not. How many times you went to go see a movie where it's just nothing but jump scares, cheap tricks, and whatever, that, oh yeah, it's that guy. No, that's not what this is here for. This is here to tell a story of how a child's imagination can be dangerous, how ghosts from the past can come back to haunt us, how generational trauma breeds unless dealt with, the relationship between stepmothers or step-parents and children, the resentment that can cause, the pain of being a parent. Just to name a few, most movies only have one theme that they stick to, one idea that they cling to with everything that they have. And this movie Imaginary has more than I can remember, but it's not overabundant. They use each little knot in the spider web of conflict and resolution. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to last episode, listen to that again. I also have a video that is all about what I'm talking about. They have all of the points of the spider web and they go through them. They don't focus on every single one for the entirety of the movie. They're constantly building it. They're constantly moving to different points and each point that they make, solve, establish, hint at, leads to the other. It's a flowing narrative. It's a great movie. Dude, not 9. Definitely a 9 out of 10. It was great. The only gripe I have is that a few lines of dialogue felt very heavy-handed. It's like, hey, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention, just listen to this one line and you'll know what's going on. Like, okay, towards the end of the movie, they're making a portal to get to the youngest daughter who's trapped in this other dimension. Cool, whatever. So they're going through the whole ritual of like, okay, we're going to get the ritual done. We're going to go save Alice. We're going to get back here. We're going to close the portal door. Everyone with me? Cool. All right, boom, let's go. And then they jump to, they've already gathered everything because they don't need to go through everything again. They've already done that with the youngest. And then it's like, okay, they have the oldest daughter go, are we really making a portal to another dimension just so we can save Alice? Is this really what's happening? Shut up. Shut up. We know that. We know that. Maybe I was paying too much attention, so there were a lot of redundant points like that. But I did notice that a few times. That's why it's not a 10 out of 10. And that's my own personal rating. So go watch it. It's an amazing watch. It's still in theaters, I think, for a few more days. So if you're looking for something to watch, look out for that one. Maybe it'll pop up on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. But definitely a 9 out of 10. Very, very good movie. Something else that came out that has a little bit more news about it, a little bit more hype, and a previously established IP, not something new, not some other dull horror movie. I'm talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender, the live-action version. Now, I'm not actually going to talk about that. I know, kind of disappointing. But I'm going to be talking about the show itself because I haven't watched the live action version. I don't want to talk about it if I haven't watched it yet. I will. So like next episode, I'll probably mention some stuff. But I watched Avatar as a young kid. And I remember specifically the Siege of Ba Sing Se episode where they have like the big drill. It's drilling into the side of the wall. Specifically the Aang and Princess Azula fight. I'm just putting together that Azul is blue in Spanish and she has blue fire. That's funny. The Aang versus Princess Azula fight on top of the drill. And I remember watching it and going, oh my God, this is awesome. This is awesome. He jumps, throws a rock, the big drill, the set piece. It was the first time I saw something that ripped into me and said, we're going to take you on a ride. You don't know what's happening. This is the first episode you've ever seen of this, but there's emotion to it. It's a cinematic piece of art that is an animated cartoon. It threw me because I hadn't seen anything like that yet. I was next to Kids Next Door. I was used to Ben 10, but this had lighting, this had scenery, this had scale, this had conflict, this had actual ramifications on the plot. And just the animation itself, just the setup itself was great. I loved it, and it stuck with me. And it wasn't until much later I actually watched the whole series. And it wasn't even until later, to the point where I can call it recent, I started watching this one YouTuber, Overanalyzing Avatar, where me and him are of the same cloth. We dissect story. Now, he might just be saying this about Avatar because he says a lot of the time that Avatar is his favorite series, and so that's why he made the entire channel. But I'm a fan. I've subscribed to him on all of my channels. I watch all of his videos. They're great. Love them. But it reintroduced me into the show. And just like how Imaginary, I said, was a true story, Avatar does this on a show scale, a multi-season scale, where every episode drives the plot forward, except for, Painted Lady. But that's besides the point. Every episode driving the plot forward leads to something I talked about last episode. I talked about earlier in this episode, conflict resolution. So you'll have one giant overarching plot point, right? In Avatar, this is the Fire Lord. This is Avatar needs to save the world by killing or dealing with the Fire Lord. That is the driving force of the plot. That is everything. Everything revolves around that point. Everything pushes the narrative in that direction. Now, you also have multiple seasons. So there are season level conflicts. We need to get to the North Pole. We need to get to Ba Sing Se? Those kinds of things. The things that the season starts, what are we going to do? Because of the last season finale. Each season finale is huge, so there needs to be a moment after that goes, hey, what's the next step to defeating the Fire Lord? Because remember, that's the highest point of conflict that they need to deal with. So each season helps that in big jumps. Hey, we need to get to the North Pole. Hey, we need to get here. Hey, we need to get Toph. Whatever. We need to invade the capital. We need to stop them before the comet comes by and like enhances everyone. But okay, we also need Avatar to we need Aang to learn all 4 elements. That's another huge plot point. And that is a smaller conflict, even though it doesn't seem like it. Because on a narrative level, that is our sense of progression. Okay, my man, you have one of the 4 elements that you were supposed to learn. You need to learn all of them. So there's a difference between Aang when he just knows airbending, and then when he learns waterbending, and then when he tries to learn firebending, but when he eventually just learns earthbending before that, and then finally learning firebending. Each phase of that pulls Aang into the realm of change. He grows as a character, he evolves as a character, and it is amazing to see, because along with going different places in the world, giving more conflict diversity, meeting new nations, meeting new people, meeting new systems, like the mailing system from that one place. I can't remember. We feel that sense of progression through the number of elements that he learns. And along with each element that he learns, we get introduced to a new core character, the Avatar squad or whatever. Toph, Zuko, Sokka, and Katara. And each one that's introduced is like brings in the new philosophy, the new set of morals, the new culture of each bending, which then brings out the characterization of the world, brings out the depth of the culture and history of each nation, of each bending style, how it relates to the characters' personalities, all of those things. It's great. And then on top of that, you have each nation at war with the other, the idea of unity. And the more you break down the things that happen in the show, the more you break down the senses of progression, the conflicts that get resolved episode to episode, multi-episode, or just season by season, you find these levels of conflict that are set up, paid off, and progress the story further. So you're never in the same place twice. That is huge. And I think that is one of the main reasons that Avatar is such a good show to watch and is still revered to this day. It was a kid's show. You never hear anyone talk about Ben 10 this way. It is a story, truthfully, because everything that is brought up leads to something else. There is no single moment that is just useless except the Painted Lady. Each thing that is learned, each thing that is talked about, each one-off episode has a purpose. And I think that's important. Whether it's characterization or it's world building or it's plot progression, it all has a reason to be there. There is no random event. There is no happenstance. Every conflict that gets brought up deals with something the characters feel internally, has a thematical reason for being there. But yeah, that's just my general thoughts about Avatar as an IP. But overanalyzing Avatar helped me with that. Helped show me that this kind of storytelling is present, is there. And while, yeah, he makes he's doing one frame, hey, Toph has 6 fingers in this shot, or hey, this is the only time Zuko ever says Toph's name. He does a lot of that. He talks about the story itself, and he's very, very smart. And I love listening to him talk about that because you can feel how passionate he is in the level of detail and level of thought that he has. The knowledge that guy has about the show Avatar is unreal. And I love listening to it. I wanted to share it with you guys because it's very of the same vein as Eat the Blank Page is, where I'm not specifically on one single IP, one single show. Like he is, even though he did branch out into like Bigfoot and aliens and stuff. Some of my favorite episodes, by the way, if you're watching, the stories that I read, write, see, the shows I watch, the books I read, those are the things that I talk about. I talk about story as a whole. I'm much more broad, but if you're looking for a deep dive into Avatar, go check him out. He is the only place to go see. Everywhere else that does random stories, whatever, like, I'm not gonna make a series about it. That guy is Avatar. If you're looking to get back into it, watch his videos. Great stuff. Love that guy. You should go subscribe to him. Unfortunately, it feels like it came by so quickly. The end of the podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed this week. I know I'm a lot more yelly. I'm a lot louder than I normally am. That is due to a lot of stuff I'm not going to talk about. But I'm very, very excited to just, I don't know, be back on a normal schedule. If you want little bite-sized pieces of the show or past episodes, if you're interested, I make segment videos now, and they're just the basic conversation. So, for example, in this episode, I'll have a segment for my discussion on Avatar, on Rooster Teeth, and of the imaginary movie. So if you found through one of the shorts, those shorts are usually pulled from the longer talks. Just, if you want to watch more of me, but you're not down to watch an hour-long discussion on Agent Argyle, I get it. The segments are there in their own playlist on my YouTube page, so please go check me out on there, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, where I make announcements. I'm also on Twitter. I'll announce every video that I post. So if you just want a little message board that is, hey, it's me, there you go. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Eat the Blank Page. I hope I made your day just a little bit better and added a little bit creativity, creative thought, something to your usual stream of podcasts that I'm sure you have. Have a good one, guys. Rooster Teeth. Goodbye.